One of the biggest issues I have in life and in game dev is overthinking things. We're going to talk about 5 ways that I try and combat my own overthinking as much as I can coming up. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Tim Ruswick, and if you're new here, I recommend you hit the subscribe button because we post daily game development content just like this on the channel. Real quick, if you've ever overthought something before, why don't you go ahead and leave that down below so we can all learn from each other. So straight up, let's get started. I think the first thing you can do to stop overthinking is just 1, be aware that you're overthinking. If you've ever joined a team with somebody and you've watched the process of them overthinking something, it's super obvious. You can see it in someone else. You can just, when someone just tells you all their worries and fears and what's going to happen and what might happen, like you can see it in their eyes. It's so easy to see someone else overthink something, but it's very hard to see yourself overthink something because it's in your head, it's inside here, and it's rough sometimes to be able to try and do that. So being aware of it, I think, is step 1. You have to know that you're overthinking, and I think how you do that is you pay attention to how you feel. You pay attention to what's going on in your head. You got to be somewhat self-aware to be able to do this. You have to pay attention to yourself. You have to watch what you do. You have to monitor your anxiety. You have to monitor your stress and really understand yourself. And this for me has been huge in my life, just really knowing what happens when okay, I have trouble sleeping the night before a meeting. Why is that? Okay, I have anxiety before I do this. Understanding all those different things is really, really important. And overthinking specifically, it really, really helps to know and be aware of your patterns and the things that you do and the things you overthink. You can't always tell, when you're in the middle of overthinking something. If you could just stop it. You just say, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to do it. But it is one of those things that just being aware that you do it and that you have a pattern of it, you can kind of ask yourself and pause for a second. You can say, am I overthinking this? Am I thinking too much about this? And just being aware of it, I think really, really helps. And number 2 is, I think, focusing on what's right. And the reason why we want to focus on what's right is because when most people overthink things, they focus on what is wrong or what can go wrong. I know, with me personally, with my game, I'm always worried that I'm not using the mechanic to its full potential. I'm worried that the things that I'm using in the game, the mechanics and the way the movement works, I'm always worried that it's not optimal, that it's not perfect, and people are going to call out the flaws and they're just going to say something's wrong with it. And whenever I overthink those things, which I've done a lot, my thing is always, okay, let me focus on what can go right. The movement feels good. The jumps are great. The enemies are fantastic. Let's focus on what can go good. People can like this level. People can like the scenery in this level. They can, compliment this thing or that thing. And when I start focusing on what's right, even though I still may be kind of thinking about things too much, it's less paralyzing than thinking about things when they're wrong. So things going right, I think, is a good mental shift from things going wrong, because overthinking when you're in that negative loop can get really debilitating and just totally destroy any motivation or anything that you have in anything that you're trying to do moving forward, and I think is really, really important. So, and number 3 is accept the imperfection. This is something that we've talked about a lot. We talk about perfectionism on the channel. I have a video about that. But basically, perfectionism is bad, right? Perfectionism is the killer of any project that never got finished, right? That was the thing that usually killed it. Sometimes it's scope creep, sometimes it's whatever, but scope creep even itself is usually a result of that perfectionism. And this is something a lot of people that haven't worked on a big project don't get. I get comments and I get messages all the time saying, Tim, you should strive to be perfect. Your game should be perfect. You should spend all the time in the world to make it the best thing that you can ever be. And I agree with that. I think you should work hard on your game. But sometimes the decision isn't between should I make this perfect or should I make this imperfect. Sometimes the decision is between should I make this perfect or should I get this done. And sometimes you just have to get it done. Sometimes it's never going to be perfect. Sometimes that perfection in your head, that thing, that idea that you have about it is just unrealistic and it's not going to work. So I think you do want to avoid perfectionism, but at the same time, you want to accept the imperfect version of what you're creating. You want to accept that version that may never be the epic, crazy vision that you have in your head, but it's good enough and people enjoy it and people like it and it gets published, right? So accepting the imperfection, I think, is big for me because I'm super emotionally attached to my project, and I want people to love it. I don't just want people to like it. I want people to love it. And I think it's on another level for me because I run a game development channel, and I'm hypersensitive because of that, because I feel like I have to be somewhat of an example on making a game and showing like what can be done. So, you know, it creates one of those situations where I want to be perfect, but I have to accept the imperfection, and I recommend you do too. And number 4, you want to put a timer on it. This is more of like actually getting the thing done, more from like a productivity standpoint. But like when I'm overthinking things and I'm like really going crazy trying to figure out what I should do, or worrying about all the stuff that can go wrong, putting a timer on what I'm trying to do or timer on the decision can really, really help. So for example, sometimes there's just 2 paths, right? Should I do the levels this way or should I do the levels that way? And if I can't make a decision, sometimes I just have to pick one. Like obviously you should probably do some testing, talk to people and all that stuff, which we'll get to in a second. But like if you have all the data, then it's just up to you to make a decision. Sometimes there's 2 right answers. Sometimes there is, really truly. Like sometimes there's not always that one was the right one, this one's the wrong one. Sometimes just moving forward on even what could be the wrong path is better than just standing still at the crossroads. And it's important to just kind of focus on the finish line. And when you put a timer on it, it kind of forces you to make a decision. And for me, like there's some decisions that are just so crippling. They stop me and I don't know what to do. And it's so frustrating. And like, I just have to put a timer on it. And when I do that and I finally make the decision, usually I feel better about it. Usually I'm like, okay, I made a decision. Let's just go with it. And I get past it. And number 5 is talk to other people. So this has been invaluable in my life. I cannot tell you how thankful I am for other people. So I run a mastermind group for Game Dev Underground Elite, which you can check down below. But basically it's a monthly program that I run where a bunch of us, we meet every 2 weeks and we talk about our projects and we talk about the issues we're facing and we talk about everything that's going wrong, and we get opinions from the group, but we also set objectives and goals for the next 2 weeks. And having that group has helped me so much because there's so many things in my project where I don't know what to do. And sometimes it helps to get a little bit of feedback from other people. And when I'm overthinking things, like I said, it's super easy to call out when other people are overthinking. So when I'm doing it on camera with all these other people, it really helps for them to call me out and say, no, you're overthinking it. And I say, okay, that makes sense. And then I can kind of make a decision from there. And this also works with friends and stuff, but I find that like a lot of people in my life don't really understand the things that I do. And so they can't really give me valuable feedback. If they don't even understand the decisions that I have, how can they understand the impact of those decisions and maybe help me move forward? They can't even tell if I'm overthinking things because they don't really understand anything that I'm doing. So having a mastermind group like this has been tremendously beneficial to everything that I do. And if you're looking for something similar, you can join it in the link down below. It's been a godsend, seriously. It's been amazing. But you can also get an accountability buddy. I have a video about that. You can find other people around you that maybe are into some of the same things you are that can join you or kind of help you. Maybe you can hold each other accountable. Just finding other people that can maybe call you out on your shit and tell you you're overthinking things, it really helps. So those are my 5 tips to get you out of overwhelm. They're the things that help me anyway. I'm not perfect at this. I still do this a lot. I'm working on it, and these are the things that kind of move me forward and move me out of that overthinking phase most of the time, and it's extremely valuable. I hope they were as valuable to you as they were to me. If they were, hit me a thumbs up down below. Leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. If there's any additional tips that you have on getting past overthinking, leave those down below in the comments as well. But once again, my name is Tim Roswick, and I'll see you tomorrow.